Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Warriors, Season 3, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the side of stuff with Nellie, where we have her getting another visit from Douglas, and, the way he's kind of talking about the place here, and it's like, oh, he's going to make things difficult for her, being like, oh yeah, this place might be considered like, a brothel of sort with all these women here. And it's like, well, you don't got to worry about that. I made sure that every time I rescued a lot of these women, the police were with me. Granted, some of those were rescued by Lai and Atoy, so let's not kind of dive into that whole situation. But it's in that capacity of, Nellie knows not to ask and didn't really bother asking because it's like, right, you say the girls is relevant, but it's still like, right, she has enough connections with the police and they were there a lot of the step of the way, so there is a legitimate paper trail to be like, and, reliable people to be like, yes, and testify that, yes, she went about things the right way, so he can't really use that against her, but then he wants to throw it in her face about her and Atoy, which I was like, when he looked at them, there was not like an intimate moment. It's not like maybe I missed it, but he didn't see them kissing. He just saw them touching, but I guess it was like intimate enough. I guess, well, the way Nellie puts it later on, he's always had a thing for her because they were friends. He was friends with her husband, her late husband. So it's like, right, he was around enough. Plus, he always had a thing for her. So the way Atoy, I guess, was touching on her is the same way he's always envisioned touching on her. So it's I'm gonna get what I'm owed because I'm not gonna, once again, her saying no is cutting into his own money because he has this job, and it's like, right, the government could easily go to someone else who's more willing to do whatever it takes to get that land, which he's willing to do whatever it takes as well. But he tried to approach this from a friendly point of view, not only because like, hey, I was friends with your husband, but it's also because I do like you. And that's kind of going to go nowhere with Atoy in the picture, which I wonder if that's another, like, it's just, there's more fuel to that fire for him, or it's just like, just more and more and more fuel gets added to it, and I think it just adds to his vindictiveness of how he's going to approach this. So he has, like, not like I agree with it, but I'm saying his reasons are there of like, right, he has monetary reasons for doing this, but he also has an even more personal reason for doing it, so. What really surprised me, though, was him getting Leary's help. It didn't even cross my mind that those two would cross paths. Because I guess it didn't correlate in my head that Douglas was the same guy that he was, the Mr. Strickland that he's supposed to be going after. It didn't even correlate in my head that because I forgot the guy's name, but I didn't realize it was Douglas that he was kind of told to go after. But it's like, yeah, you kind of don't want to go at me because I roll pretty deep with a squad. But it's like, no, like, I'm the type of man you'll learn quickly that I'm the type of man you make a deal with. And because Douglas is like, you and me, Leary, were cut from the same cloth. He's a military guy. Leary was a military guy. They both know what it's like to lose family. He lost his wife. He also lost his son in a battlefield, and even Leary was like, yeah, like he fought to get home to his children. I wonder, did his wife, I don't remember last season whether he explained like the time frame between his wife dying and his son's dying. I think they all died from the pox, but I might be misremembering. But he's like, yeah, I fought get home to my children, which I did. And then I ended up losing them to the pox. Because it's like, yeah, like, the fact is we are men who've worked our way to where we are. Where, like, he's like, Douglas is like, I'm not like every other rich person because I've fought and tooth and nail to earn every dime I've gotten. Whereas everyone else is born into wealth, They don't really appreciate and know you for the man that you are. That, yes, you can bust some head opens, and yes, you can get 5-10 Irish people their, jobs. It's like, yeah, but it feeds their family. It's like, yes, but it's a temporary solution. And this was kind of something that I want to say Buckley was kind of getting to previously, maybe even last season when it came to Leary. That is like, right, your brutish manner can only get you so far because you're not tackling the systemic thing of like, you can try and do all you can, and you're trying to handle things certain way, but it's like, right, using cheaper Chinese labor. I mean, not even just Chinese labor, just labor in general, whether it's indentured or slavery, has been ingratiated into this country's beginning, and it's still here in its at this point in its history. So it's, I mean, and the confines of the show is what I'm talking about. So it is a thing of, it's so connected to the systematic nature of this country. You need real power, political power, to change that. And that was kind of something Buckley had previously brought up to him, and now it's an opportunity. So Buckley's going to probably be working with Douglas, but he's not the one that goes after the farm, the land on Sonoma. Like, he's not there. Probably would have been a whole other thing if he was there, but what's his face? Douglas sent his own guys in to handle that, but doesn't mean he won't eventually draw Leary in, because Leary's trying to be like, no, I've tried so hard to play the political game the way they wanted me to, because they view me this certain way. I'm not going to be some lapdog you can call in. So the guy that kind of told him to go after Douglas, Leary stabs him in the hand and is like, yo, this is my place of business. You're going to show me some fucking respect here. It's like, I'm going to call the cops on you. He's like, oh, there's one there. Hey, Owen, this man wanted to talk to you because you're a cop. He's like, oh, what's the problem? It's like, this man stabbed me. Oh, really? And just everyone's kind of looking like, nah. It's like, oh, he's like, there's plenty of witnesses here. Everyone turns away and looks away. It's like, I didn't see anything. It's like, yeah, you're my territory. Don't ever forget. So he's on that guy's shit list. But I think it's just supposed to just symbolizing Leary kind of doubling down on himself of like, I'm going to be me, but I'm not going to like kowtow to anyone. I'm not going to give my services to anyone else. I'm going to be my own man, and I am going to get the power on my own without having to like, because anytime, like they're going to help me, sure, but it's not, I'm always going to be at their beck and call. I'm out, it's just, it goes from one person to another, because I hear Merriweather, he hooked me up with this other guy. It just, I'd be like, just the ruffian, the gangster they call him when they want some kneecaps busted and some skulls busted. And it's like, I'm not about to play that role. Like, I'm going to put myself in a position to get some real power, and you guys will never give me the real power. So I'm going to have to kind of go off on my own, because they're always going to keep him in the role they need him to be, and the role they see him as. Cause it's like, right, you can't really rise above your station. They would probably try and stop him from getting too powerful. So. But back with the Sonoma situation, yeah, like I said, I was worrying it was going to be Leary and his men, but it's like, no, it's purely Douglas's men, and that turned into a whole-blown tragedy like I figured it would. They were burning everything down, killing some of the women were caught on fire because they were still sleeping when the houses were caught on fire. Luckily, I was scared because I was like, oh, please don't let Lai or Nellie die, because it could have been opportune time to kill them. Sad thing is, there's still plenty of story, and there's still plenty of opportunity for that to happen. I mean, once Atoy got her happily ever after, to some extent, on a way to her happily ever after, just to kind of have that potentially stripped away from her this season. Like, no one can be happy in this show, so. And even if they are happy, it ain't gonna last long. Like, they were able to kind of just have this space to themselves for so long, and just to kind of, for things to turn out this way. There's only like a handful of women left. Like, we saw, like, there's a lot of women here, so I don't know if they were able to escape. I would assume not. Not unless they did, but we saw some dying, but there was only like a handful left at the end, so I think most of the women ended up dying, which is like, I hope that's not the case. I hope it is a thing of like, right, they escaped off screen somewhere. And we'll find out a lot more of them survived than because it didn't look like the ground was riddled with those women's bodies, but we did see some of them getting shot and killed. So it's just like, Jesus. Toy had to pick up the blade. Granted, it's you could also tell like they're not weapons she's used to, because they're just like regular machetes. They're not her actual blade, because her blade is thicker. It's a different weight. It's something she's more comfortable with. So she's not able to slice through these bodies like she normally would be able to with her blade. It's not like a clean thing. It's like the blade would get stabbed into someone and it gets stuck, and she'd have to struggle to pull it out because the blades aren't as sharp and it's not as fine tuned as her blade. So. Not all of Douglas's men died a few escaped, especially the main dude with the whip and everything. So I was kind of hoping Atoy would like end up killing him, but he's also strapped with a gun, but he didn't use it. He might not have brought it because some of those men had guns, but so Nellie's doing her thing too, like popping some of those bastards. But yeah, that got me. But back to that last guy. Well, no, because Nellie was. No, it was Atoy. Atoy was jumped by like two guys along with that guy. That guy also lifted up Lai and was punching her in the face. It's like, dude. It's like, you've declared war on the wrong people. You did not realize who you were fucking with. Also, like, some of those women got to work, too. It's like, the ones that were beating up on Nellie, the women grabbed them and started, like, attacking the hell out of them. So it's like, understandable. They went through the situations they've been through, so they're fighters as well. I mean, not to the extent like Lai or Toy are, but they know to fight for survival, and they did. And it's just such a shame that, like, this haven of theirs is now gone. So Douglas kind of got what he wanted, but how they're going to respond, Atoy's going to want blood for this, and I'm curious if Nellie's going to give her the go ahead to do that. It's like, yeah, but he's also powerful like he is. You'd have to get through his security, maybe even Leary. Who knows how that'll kind of play out and pan out, So we'll see how things kind of flow on that front. Back to the, circling over to the Mai situation, they are welcoming in some of the men from the Three Brothers, and Kong Paka's like, yeah, they'll fall in line because, Muchin led with fear. These men are now kind of cut free from that, so they'll fall in line. But it's like, yeah, keep an eye on them, but it's like, will they really fall in line? Who knows? It's like all this power Mai Ling is amassing, and it's all happening because the Hop Wei doesn't even really, I mean, they're so busy on trying to survive in their own that they didn't quite notice like how much powerful they've been getting. Because obviously, luckily, they got Chow on their side to keep an eye on things. So he's the one that kind of let Assam know, like, yeah, your sister absorbed another Tong. Also, don't you think it's interesting how the Hop Wei's kind of suffering, but somehow, and not just Hop Wei, all of Chinatown suffering, yet somehow the Long Z hasn't really had to sweat any of this. So, like, they don't know what it is exactly. Chow doesn't know, but he knows something's fishy there, and that's what Assam kind of questions her about later on. I mean, but before we get to that, Leong finally brings up the thing that I've been bringing up of, oh, she's going to end up spending a lot more time with Eliza, her new quote-unquote bestie. And it's like, yeah, you're spending a lot of time there, but once again, it's like, yeah, but that's because it's a means to an end. But the problem is, like, you've got all this power, like, you've got all this power amassed underneath the Long Z, and you're trying to move the needle so that your power extends beyond Chinatown, and you need to make business connections and stuff, because you also know you can't rely on Buckley, because Buckley's always try to keep you in your station so you never rise too far above, but you also can't rely on him forever, so you need to kind of have some capital and just kind of a business presence of your own to kind of really expand beyond Chinatown, to really expand, really, once again, not the Long Z's power, but your power. So she meets Eliza's husband. He's like, oh, your English is flawless. She's like, yours isn't batty. And it's like, oh, you didn't tell me she was funny. Ha 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 ha. You're like, yeah, that's not going to end well. Like, the fact is, you're going like, okay, there's going to be some issues between Eliza's husband and Mai Ling. To be fair, it might be kind of similar to, if you've ever seen the show Carnival Row. God, what was Imogen, I believe. And the greatest, like, kind of their story in conjunction with Imogen's brother. Like, it's going to be, feels like it's going to kind of have a similar energy to that. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's just like, I could see Mai Ling, because Miss Archer said, like, oh yeah, like, this is what Eliza's doing. She's always been very like, oh, I'm going to do stuff to be very like avant-garde. So she's always got a new project. And you can, once again, that was my big thing last episode too, of I'll give her the benefit of doubt for now, but I was like, I feel like this is just, once again, that Mai Ling is her plaything, and just like, oh, look at me, bring you in, like, oh, like, bring you in, and so you get to experience white society, get to experience something so culture. Like, it seems like she's being respectful, but it feels like it's all a ploy just so she could have, like, you be her doll that she can, like, parade around like you're an animal trapped in the zoo. Because sadly, a lot of people will look at, you know, someone like Mai Ling as an animal, and in a lot of cases, a lot lower than an animal, you know, on the totem pole. So I even love her kind of looking at Buckley like, oh, hey. So, but Miss Archer's kind of making it clear like, yo, you must have, you know, misplaced my card because you didn't call me. So it's like, right, do call me because you need to do that before I become intolerable. Like, yo, I will find you. It's like, I want you, I like you, I want you, and I'm coming get you. It's almost that type of thing. It's like, I think she sees the, you know, the writing on the wall, and she sees Buckley as an opportunity. I don't know whether she legitimately likes him, and it feels like Buckley's so, like, almost like, oh, you like me? Seems like him and Assam kind of got that thing of, like, I didn't even recognize you potentially like me thing. Of like, well, we know he was, didn't he have because he was married before. The only companionship he's had probably post his marriage is probably on the Ladies of the Night variety. So kind of like a classy lady that he doesn't have to clean up because of his, once again, as I've described it, as maybe germophobia thing that he's kind of got going. She kind of breaks past that barrier a little bit. And so I think, like I said, the last episode I just went on about how I believe she's just a means to an end for his political game, but I think it's also going to be a thing of, like, he's going to legitimately start liking her, but she's going to say, like, right, you can use me, we can be a power couple, a team that kind of puts you in the powerful position that you want to be in, because once again, I see the value that you hold, I see the power and potential that you have. So we shall see how that continues to develop. We had the Mosley situation. Lee does take the job, much to Abigail's chagrin, because it's like, right, you can't really be staying here if you're a cop, considering, as we now know, it's one of the places Happy Jack owns, and he already doesn't like Lee. He also knows that Lee's being hunted. Once again, he still hasn't pulled the trigger on that, but it's going to be even less likely to pull the trigger now that he's a cop again, and now a Secret Service agent. But then it's like, yeah, but Abigail probably won't tell him. Well, not probably, definitely won't tell Happy Jack about that. And so as long as he doesn't find out, I guess it's fine. As long as Lee's able to get this all done, helping Mosley with the counterfeit stuff before it all gets, you know, like, because he wants out. And she wants to stay in San Francisco. And for him, it's like, this is the only way we can make sure that we can make that happen without having to ever leave here, never having to look over our shoulders ever again. So I love that having Lee back in the stomping grounds again, talking to the Chinatown squad, basically calling them out of like, yeah, like because they're like, right, why would we like worry about all that? We're trying to stop the infighting in Chinatown, and you want us to kind of worry about this money, and like it doesn't matter. It's like, well, it should matter, because you know that money you're taking as a bribe, think of it as like, hey, this is your way of benefiting yourself, because hey, you're going to be toting around counterfeit money. And one of the Chinatown squad members was like, yo, you talking shit. And Lee never really liked the rest of the squad. The only person he really got along with on the squad was Bill. So, and even that was a tumultuous relationship at best on occasion. But I did love that Bill was like, oh, so this is what you're doing. And it's like, right, I could go see Chow with you. And it's like, I could ease things over. He's like, no, I'm going to handle things my way, Bill. And he's like, okay, well, just, you know, make sure you're okay. Like, try, you know, don't do anything reckless or whatever. He's like, I can't promise that. Just make sure you come back alive. I was like, aw, Bill, you just, you know, it's like, right, you almost lost Lee on many occasions. And it's like, I also didn't, like, it wasn't until he came back to Chinatown, I was like, right, you haven't been back to Chinatown since season 2's finale. And it's like, yeah, the last time you were here, you did kill someone. Granted, he was a piece of shit, so screw him. I have no sympathy for him. But just once again, the triggering the trauma of the last time Lee had killed someone before then was his own cousins, because they killed the woman he loved. but goes to visit Chow. And I love him, showing that Lee's grown and changed. He's not the squeaky clean person that even he's kind of, it's the new job and position where he's like, hey, with this new badge, I can help you out. I can get you paid. I can make sure you stay out of jail. It's like, but for Chow, it's like, yeah, how's that any different from the previous circumstances of the deals were going down before? Because it sounds an awful lot like being a snitch, So I guess he never looked at his circumstances with Bill of I nudged things in your direction, but I'm not a full blown snitch. I know, because I guess for him, it's I never got paid to help out Bill. It just benefited me because it kept me in a decent enough relationship with the cops. So he never got paid. Getting paid, I guess, makes you, makes it more official, makes you a snitch, where it's I guess it's just a mutual understanding him and Bill had, so it changes things in that dynamic of I'm not about to be a snitch. Also, I don't like you too much. In fact, I actually did like you for a second until I saw that badge and was oh, when you were an ex-cop, I was starting to like you a little bit better. But now it's right, you're back here and you've got another badge. Cool, I don't like you again. So I don't know whether Lee set that up knowing hey, we'll have to follow Chow, or whether that was a Mosley thing, because we didn't see Lee for the rest of the episode after that, but Mosley tried to follow Chow, but Chow's pretty slippery, so he made sure to keep an eye on you, which we didn't see Chow going to the Hopway specifically. He didn't go to June. Well, if he's going to go in anyone and probably explain things, probably go to Assam first, but the whole Hopway needs to know that, hey, there's agent here looking into this counterfeit stuff, so we need to take this a little more seriously, because it's not just the local cops anymore. It's literally the government, special government agents investigating it. So it brings on a whole new level of heat, because it's right, dealing with the local San Francisco cops is one thing, but now you're having the government involved. That's a whole other beast. That's a whole other fight, which is so interesting because it parallels that conversation that Father June had with young June last season in the season finale, being hey, I know that spark in you makes you feel like you want to go fight the entire country or whatever. And he's yeah, but he's no, I know it's not a good idea, but it still can't help and shake that feeling that I feel like I can and want to. So it's almost paralleling that. I guess it was almost meant to be kind of a foreshadowing situation. Speaking on the Hopway front, Yeonmin is continuing to print the money, but for her it's right, I offered to help, but I didn't offer to become a member of the Hopway in the process. It's it's right, you came to us for help. It's yeah, because I was trying to clear my father's debt, the man that, hey, he was behind on a payment. You're up here talking about protecting those who are under you, but it's yeah, but you beat my father up when he was behind on payments. Even Assam's yeah, that shouldn't have happened. But also, to be fair, it is a difference between, hey, you get, we have to pay money for protection versus being actually part of the Hopway. More, it's she's not officially part of the Hopway. She's supposed to be under their protection because she does work for them. Your protection doesn't necessarily mean you you work for the Hopway. It's just hey, the Hopway protects you and you pay them money to continue that protection. You're different because you're actually working with the Hopway without really being Hopway. So that kind of delineates it a little different. Not it matters, but there is kind of there is a technicality to all of that. So you kind of got those feelings pretty early on where it seemed like an Assam and Min thing was kind of bubbling beneath the surface, especially when he was training with the nunchucks and he had to kind of pat her down and he's sweating. You can tell she was almost kind of okay. It's yeah, go back and I hope you enjoy playing with your wood. And he's almost he's not picking up the vibes and he's just kind of okay, whatever. But you could tell there was probably some vibes that she was kind of giving off about it. But Assam's in its complicated place because of what happened with what Yeonmin was saying about how the Hopways kind of handled stuff, especially for him. He's in this very precarious position because, yes, he's part of the Hopway, but he's also Chinatown's hero, and that duality is a complicated thing for him because it's, he wants to do good for Chinatown, but he does have his allegiances and obligations to the Hopway that he can't break because it's like, right, once you're part of it, there's no just like leaving it. That's already been a thing, especially when he's already in deep water with young June, who has reservations, still has issues because of the aftermath of, yeah, Mylene being your sister and you lied to me this entire time about it. Especially when young June is tossing around the counterfeit money, which Assam is bothered by because it's like, right, this was supposed to be a solution, not the solution. It's supposed to kind of tide us over. Like, we paid off Happy Jack with the counterfeit money, then we got the, and then we be able to kind of like, right, we'll kind of like make up pace for that by like now selling the drugs and kind of making real money. But now you have young June passing out the fake money. Well, the only people who know the truth are Assam, Yamin, Chow, Young June, and Hong. So no one else, even in the Hopway, is aware of it, but it's still the thing of putting all that fake money out there is a problem, especially once again, as we know, there's special agents looking into this stuff, and they have the means to find out what is and isn't fake money. Because Young June didn't just stop at passing it out and around the Hopway, he's also doing it in Chinatown. In his mind, it's like, right, it's not like I'm just doing it willy-nilly. I am also cleaning the money. Like, he's laundering it. And it's like, yeah, in the process, if I'm kind of heralded as a hero, so what? That kind of works out too. It's like, yeah, but the problem is if the truth comes out about it being fake money, that's going to blow back on you because you're going to end up dragged. Because once that happens, like, all of Chinatown is now going to get dragged into this investigation because of you. They've already got to deal with, like, the Bulls' boots on their neck, and it's going to come down even harder because it's not even just going to be the locals anymore. Once again, this is government-backed cops, so it adds a different layer to the situation. Once again, rather than it just being the local thing, it is a federal thing. It was already kind of a federal thing because the crime and stuff, but still, a federal agency is now involved in all of this. So, because I think for Assam, he feels like, right, we're taking advantage of Chinatown. When Chinatown's low, these people need real help and not like us using them as part of our criminal enterprise. It just makes him feel kind of like yucky about it. And so for Young June, it's a means to an end. He's like, I get it, you want to help and everything. But yeah, this is kind of like, this is how we kind of bring in the real money into all of this. Is how we kind of get things flowing. It's kind of how we get the economy flowing. But it's like, yeah, you put too much money out there, you could cause an economic collapse and stuff, especially for Chinatown, and you draw like so much unwanted attention, and especially because Chinatown has not fully recovered, because they can never fully recover from season 2's finale when they're constantly, because metaphorically speaking, it's a giant open wound that's, yeah, before it even has a chance to scab up, here comes the police, like, ripping the scab again, so it's like, I know that's kind of very, like, graphic and grotesque anecdote or metaphor to use, but still. It's like, yeah, the wound can never heal because it's kind of getting reopened every time the Bulls come into town, so, and you're just going to, like, in fact, your attempts as a solution for what's going on in Chinatown, in fact, with this fake money will, in fact, just make things work. In fact, get the wound infected. Continuing said metaphor. So, him and Yan Min had this conversation later on. Well, she had told that story of explaining like that show was put on about, a thunder god and having an axe that just like allows them to create thunder. And basically, it's a story about how lightning coming before thunder became a thing. It's like, man, mythology's so cool when you're able to kind of explain stuff like that. That's what makes like Greek and Norse mythology so interesting, and like Shinto mythology, Shinto Buddhist mythology. I think that's what it is. Japanese mythology. Those are just some of the more mythologies that I know like a tiny bit about. But I love that Assam tried to spin the story, but like, oh, it's kind of a sweet love story. She's like, really? Being forced to be married to someone, and also she was meant to kind of quell his anger. Like, it's like, cool, I was turned into a goddess and was kind of forced to marry this thunder god just to kind of keep him in place. And so it's like, right, I put up all these mirrors in the sky, and now lightning happens before thunder. And it's like, right, so much of my life was dictated for me, and now I'm also helping him kill more. So there's that parallel that's being made in this exact moment between Assam and Yan Min, who for her, it's like, right, I was there. I saw you fight in the riots. You were fighting for Chinatown. You were like a hero, but now I'm seeing you what you really are. You're a hatchet man, which he's like, I'm sorry to disappoint you, because she's like, right, we could all choose different paths in lives, and even saying he could, but for him it's like, no, like there is no choosing in life. We're all kind of dealt the hand we're dealt, and we just kind of have to stick with it. And for her, it's like, no, it's not too late for you. I see the good in you, the person that you are, just kind of like how Penny did. I was just thinking about it too, because I was like, when's the last time Assam was with someone? I was like, I'd let us up, but I was like, right, he was with Vega. I mean, before anything could really start there, that was kind of cut short. And obviously prior to that was the whole Penelope situation, which was also cut short. So then there's also the him and Atoy thing, but nothing ever happened. Like, I think he liked Atoy, but nothing ever really happened in like a monogamous sense. It's just more like we kind of helped each other in that. I think they only ever hooked up one time, right? I believe so. The once at near the beginning of the series, if not the beginning of the series. I think that's the only time they ever hooked up. I also like Assam having that confrontation with Mai Ling, where he's trying to understand, like, right, whatever you're doing, don't do it, because however you're getting away with what you're doing, or whoever you're working with, it's all going to blow up in your face, and the Hopway is going to be the least of your worries. And she's like, you already are. But I think it's interesting because now Assam is giving Mai Ling all this advice, which she never heeded any advice like Leon gave her last season, specifically about the fungi and stuff like that. So she kind of went about that, which once again, she admits it's a mistake, but it's still a mistake you made that had massive consequences and still could have continuous consequences. But it's just funny because Chow and Atoy were the ones warning him last season about his war with Mai Ling, and that Chinatown would be the one that suffers. Like, obviously, it's like everything he was up to with young June and doing all that stuff behind Father June's back. It's funny that now he's the one trying to give Mai Ling that advice, but once again, but it kind of showcases what Atoy said last season. You and Mai Ling are so much more alike than you're willing to admit. They're both so stubborn and stuck in their ways, where it's just like, because of what they've lost and what they've been through, they never want to kind of lose again in so many capacities. So they strive to get what they want without hesitation, without reservation, and kind of goes full throttle. So the problem is Mai Ling will go further than like Assam would. It's like, hey, Assam would never kill his sister despite their beef. He would always try to destroy the Longzi but never kill her because he can't bring himself to do it, despite his sister giving the go-ahead to, hey, kill Assam. So she is saying, like, right, the Hopway is going to fall, but you don't have to fall with them. And Assam's like, don't worry, I won't. Which could be interpreted multiple ways. Either one, I'm not going to let the Hopway fall. Like, you're going to be the one that loses in the end that way. Or you could be like, no, I'm going to have my out if need be. If the Hopway falls, like, I'm going to have my own parachute to escape. But I think it's more the former rather than the latter. Another interesting thing in the episode, too, is Hong. I think I completely forgot to talk about it last episode, but his fascination with that singer, you could tell, like, oh, your boy Hong is sprung. And him and the dancer, like, hook up and do their thing. And we actually learned a little bit more about Hong. he didn't just come here and join the Hopway. He's been with the Hopway since he was a teenager, since he was 14. He's like, yeah, since my father kicked me out of my our home, I've been with a Tong since. And at first I was like, oh, like how long has he been with the Hopway then? But I was like, right, once you join a Tong, there's no joining any other Tong. At least that's how the Hopway works. I would assume every other Tong works that way. I guess that's what puts the whole other Tong submitting to the Longzi into this weird, complicated gray area. I mean, I guess that's why Mu Chin, because he was stubborn and prideful in that regard. And Kong Pak is prideful too, but he's biting his tongue, like I said, just out of loyalty to his brother. Like, metaphorical brother. Not metaphorical, but like not biological or blood-related brother. Just a comrade in arms you see as a brother with Li Yong, but either way, it's just because you'd assume Hong is like, what, late 20s, if not early 30s. So he's spent at, almost probably half his life as part of a Tong. So, and the singer we kind of found out is like, right, his mom was indentured to like a Navy captain or someone on a Navy ship. And that person abandoned him the moment his mom died. Because apparently they would travel all over the world, so they've both kind of been on their own for a very, very long time. Because obviously, Hong, as we saw in the Hopway, we haven't really seen what his relationship's like with any other character. It never crossed my mind to think that Hong, I should have thought about this last season, but never crossed my mind that Hong's almost like a more playful replacement for Bolo, because Bolo was like the very serious get shit done type, whereas like Hong is the more crazy wild card. Hey, I got this pipe. It's like, do you even smoke? When did you start smoking? He's like, right now that I've got this pipe. And we do see him kind of smoking later on, so I did love that him and the musician kind of falling off the bed, having their fun. That was kind of neat. But I'm curious to see how that plays out. I felt like, it's like, oh, I kind of want my boy Hong to be happy, So hopefully that continues and nothing ends up souring that situation. Because Assam's kind of got his complications because he doesn't fully side with Young Jun and everything. And now he has to figure out how he handles that, without questioning Young Jun, because that could be a whole issue, especially because Young Jun's not going to be so willing to listen to him anymore, because it's like, right, I'll listen to some extent, but other than that, it's like, I can't, you lied to me, so our trust, there's always going to be like some asterisk beside any trust that I have for you. So balancing that out, trying to get the Hopway more so in the direction he wants to. It's like, will he ultimately leave the Hopway for the purposes of, I got to do what I got to do, what's best for Chinatown, or will he be able to try and shift and change the Hopway more into what he wants it to be? Once again, you won't be able to really do that with Young Jun, who's not going to listen to you. So are you going to try and steal the throne from him? Will that be the long run of it all for this story? We'll see. But my point was, like, that's what Assam's kind of going through. And Hong finding someone else, I wonder, will he have a reason to kind of not really 100% side with the Hopway anymore, where it's just kind of, I kind of want to distance myself and be happy and be with someone. So maybe this could lead to Young Jun kind of being a little more isolated and kind of pulling away the two people that are by his side, because he's kind of pulled Hong in closer, because him and Assam were obviously tight. They brought in Hong into their situation, but it's like, nah, Assam's kind of at arm's length distance now, and Hong is a little closer post everything last season. So it's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.